Copic friends, Michelle Houghton here. We've got a really short, fun tutorial. This is from Ann Corbiere-Scott Designs. This one is actually an acrylic set. Sorry, there's extra images tucked in the envelope. It's an acrylic set by Funky Fossil Designs. See if I can get that all in there. And the artist Ann Corbiere-Scott. So it's working together. She has a couple different companies that she works with when she does rubber and kind of acrylic or polymer stamps. So if you can see already, I've done two things. I've got two of the images stamped in a really light pink. This is a pink memento ink. And then I've got the sentiment stamped in black with, again, the black memento. So I figured I could do some no line with the paintbrush and kind of that paint splatter, and then a kind of light background and keep the lettering kind of distinct. I'll probably go ahead and fill in the ART, and I've been debating kind of back and forth, and I'm switching my mind here at the very last second. I think I'm going to do a light yellow on the background. In fact, because I'm going to use some blue greens on the paint and the lettering. And so I think I want something that's really going to kind of stand out a little bit differently from that. So I might, so if this is going to be, put it in the corner because I know I'll trim this down. If that's going to be kind of the darkest color, that would be pretty fun. So I could do, this is a YR31. So maybe that. And I know there's a YR30. So if I want to get it darker in, or let's do this. Let's do the lighter in the background. And then I'm going to use dots of the YR31. So I'm not going to be super concerned about going over some of these lines. I know that my blue greens that I'm going to come in with afterwards are going to be considerably stronger than these lighter colors. Now this background color is super light, this YR30. The YR31 has a little more oomph to it. And then I'm just going to kind of create a rectangle around the whole thing. So just make sure I get all the way down below the sentiment. Now I did purposely kind of put this in one corner so it would be easier for me to kind of square this off a little bit. And you could pick a different shape. I've talked about this in some of my classes before. If you're going to do a background, kind of pick a pleasing shape, whether it's a square or a rectangle or a circle. Just make it a nice visual shape that you're not doing just kind of a random amorphous shape. So I'm trying to go a little bit around the bigger lettering just because I know I'm going to go back in and fill that up. I can tell already this marker is going to struggle to make it to the end. So we're going to pause here for a second. All right, back at it. And this is one of those, if I accidentally go over these lines, they're so thin. No big deal. think I'll actually speed this up just a little bit so I can get this background filled in for you guys, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do with the dots. All right, so I'm going to switch to a YR31, and I would tell you I'm always kind of reserving the idea that I might come back and add a third color as well, another dot color. But let's start with this one, and I'm going to start kind of heavier behind the stamps, and then as I come out I'm going to do fewer dots, and obviously you could do a whole rainbow of this stuff if you wanted to, but the goal is to just give it kind of a mottled. In fact, maybe we'll do that since we've done this first. We'll kind of soften this whole effect here in just a second with some colorless blender. That might be perfection. Quick and easy. You gotta like that. So definitely tighter in. Again, I'm trying to avoid like right where these doodle kind of openings are, but if I hit one, it's okay. And then as it comes, kind of this core area right here is where I've got the tightest dots, and I'll include this area above, almost kind of a circle right here. And as I work out from that, those dots are gonna space themselves out more. So as you get out further, it definitely takes less time to come out to these corners. Really fun thing once I've got this done, and if we wanted to add a few little sequins or sparkles on this image, that'll be a fun touch because we've already got that hint of this dot pattern, so it'd be a fun one to add some little sequins to. All right, add a few more on this side since I have it thicker kind of over here as well. As much as anything, I'm just trying to keep it kind of balanced around that image. And then I usually take kind of a look at this point and say, does it fade out from there? Am I missing spots? Does it need some anywhere else? Do I feel like there's some big gaps? Did it, even in the interior, do I need a few more where it should be tighter? That's looking pretty good. So while I have it, let's do this. Let's add one more layer to this. I'm going to add, I'm going to take my colorless blender and my washcloth. This one was used obviously on something extremely blue. I'll use the part that's still clean. But I'm going to go ahead and go through this entire background. The nice part about this is I don't need to worry about hitting the paintbrush with that texture because it has no Copic on it yet. And so I can add that texture without worrying about adding it to someplace I'm hoping not to. And obviously that lighter yellow, it's really faint, but it's softening the little bit darker yellow red and adding just kind of another layer to that texture. So hopefully you can see that, but I'm liking the look of that. You could do something more significant by dampening a cotton ball. That works really, really well. All right. So there's that. So then I'm going to use a series of blue greens on my little paint splat. And I'm also going to use it on the letters. So I think I'm going to start, and I'm using my darkest one first. Sorry. This is a BG07. And then I'm going to kind of work my way around and try to think about, okay, if the light's coming from up above, where is this little splat? And obviously I've got it completely horizontal, so you could argue a whole bunch of different routes on where's dark and where's light. I'm just trying to think of, even though I've turned this horizontal, I'm thinking about kind of from one direction, so I try to make it consistent. And really that's the goal with light source. It's more about consistency, because most of the time our lighting is just from above us. It's not from one side. We use that trick to create kind of visual interest, but most of the time in life, that light source is your sun or overhead lighting. And so be real cautious, as I've taught more advanced classes too, in particular, be real cautious about limiting. It's more, what I would say is it's more about consistency than finding a true, like, my light is from the right. As long as it's coming from one side or the other, or coming from straight above and helping you create shape, that's more what this is about. When you have a specific light source that kind of wanders through your image, meaning it comes on this part, it looks like it's over on the right, and this part it's over on the left, and now it switches to the top. When you have inconsistencies, that's when you run into trouble. So but this little ink blob guide, this is kind of hard because it's kind of this funny amorphous shape. And again, it's like we're looking straight down at a piece of paper, but then the paintbrush is kind of up off to the side. So as much as anything, my goal is to create a look of kind of three-dimensional. And I think that was supposed to be a drip, and I lost my line there. I don't know if I can correct that or not. We'll see. All right. So I've got a little spot. I'm going to try to use a tiny bit. We'll see. I'll do it small increments, kind of push this through to the back a little bit. In fact, I'll get a tissue since that's spreading wide instead. I'll let that sit for a second, and I'll see if I can't reclaim that little drip. So that was a BG05, and then this is a BG02. Now you could leave a little white highlight. I think in this case I am going to come back. This is just a fun little graphic image, so I'm just going to add a little bit of white with an opaque white at the end instead. if this was more of a photographic image, I would probably try to do that a little bit with, at this point, with my markers and leaving a white highlight showing, but we'll kind of see how this turns out, and we might have to change that drip to look a little different. That's okay too. All right, there's the pieces. The nice part about blue greens is I can lighten them pretty effectively with the colorless blender. So let's see. I'll try one more little. All right. So I'm going to let this sit for just a second. And then I am going to go up to the paintbrush. Oh, I know what I could do while I'm waiting. Let's do the letters, and I'm going to do it the middle blue green, which is that BG05. Now I'm going to keep turning my paper a little bit here because this is such a tiny narrow line. I want to be able to see where I'm drawing, and if I go outside the lines, which I just did, you could try to correct that, but in this case, because it's very doodly, I'm not going to worry about it. Keep it simple and fun and cute. You don't need to give yourself cross eyes and headaches. Make it fun. That's what your art should be, is enjoyable. Here we go. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that lightest yellow, YR30, and I'm going to come right in and then once that dries, I'll come in with my darkest blue-green and see if I can't sharpen up those edges just a touch. Okay, handle. I'm doing kind of a red-brown. So I've got an E04. And we'll have to see because I don't want to get super dark over the sentiment. So I want to make sure we can still read that fairly easily. So I think I'm just going to add that hint of the darker color so we can see the shape of the handle, but that we don't get so dark that we lose the lettering. Again, I wanted to keep this really, really simple so that this is one of those fun coloring sessions that you can do fairly quickly and just enjoy. I think I got down all the way, and then I've got, so that was E04, this is E09. We're going to go down along the bottom edge and come up just a hair. And then right at that top edge, I'll do something even thinner because we want to make it look like that nice long cylinder. The other nice piece about an image like this is when Ann draws, she draws in a very doodly style, so the edges are a little wiggly. Well, it makes it way easy when I'm doing a no line image like this, because if I get a little wiggly, no one will know because that's kind of the style we're coloring. So it's good. I'm back to my E04, just softening the edges of that E09. Even though these have a pretty big jump between the two colors, they work really, really well together. I am going to grab an E50, or no, let's do this, E000, and I'm going to go right along kind of the top edge here, going back and forth and creating kind of this tiny bit of a highlight, because that wood could be painted and a little shiny. Brighten that up. There we go. But sometimes you're going to be more pleased with this if you use one of the lighter versions of those colors versus trying to do the colorless splendor. I've got two grays that I'm going to hit. Now I am going to lose some of these squiggles on the crimped metal portion of the brush, but I'll try to kind of keep the idea of it here. This is a C3, and actually if I really want to do that, I probably need to do something darker. So let's do this. Kind of map it in there with my C3. But I think I'll be better to do a C5. Here we go. In the bottom edge, and then I'm coming up kind of one edge of each of these little wiggles, these little crimps. There we go. And then jump the C3. So you could do this with just C5 and C1. There we go. Here we go. All right. But that gives that hint of that crimped metal, which is what I was going for. And then we have the bristles. And I thought it'd be kind of cool if we could add some of that red brown, that E09. And when I use my Copics on a brush, I do it kind of similar to how I do hair, in these kind of long, narrow flicks. And this time I'm going to do kind of darkest to lightest. So the other dark color I'm using is an E47. And I don't want to cover up all that E09 because I'd like that red to kind of shine through a little bit. The little tip is going to be a little tricky because of the way it curls around. Switch to E44, and these can kind of go over. This will go over a little bit the E47 and the E09. And the white will almost disappear. Something to remember when you're doing both hair and things like this on animals or brushes, anything that has these kind of long flicking strokes that we're trying to show that texture. One thing to remember is you can always go darker. So start out light, kind of work your way through your colors, whether you're going light to dark or dark to light. E43 is my lightest. But if I decide, okay, that just isn't dark enough, I can always come back and add more. So start light, then come back. You can always add a few more with those darker colors. And I like the look of this, and I like this combo, but I feel like it didn't quite get dark enough. That was the E47. Here comes the E09. Kind of reinforce those red tones. There we go. E44, soften those just a bit, and this might do it right here. There we go. And I like the little bit of light. Now, if you really wanted to play, you could have left a little bit of that brush and brought some of that blue-green up onto there so that it looks like it's dripping that actual paint. I did not in this case. You could see if we can do a little more correcting. Got a BG07. I know this is dry at this point, so I'm going to come in and my BG05. And by kind of crisping that up, and then you have to decide how much do you want to play with it. This is always the like sticking point. Do I want to come in and try to do a little bit more, kind of cleaning that up? The problem is, remember, the ink spreads, and so the more fuzzy I create that, the bigger mess I can create. So I think I better stop while I'm ahead. My guess is most people first looking at that are not going to notice that. I will. I can see it. It's like the glaring mistake. But most people aren't going to see that. And I can cut this out, add some sparkles. Let's go ahead and add some white highlights. These will not be realistic. I'm okay with that. On my drips, this is a Posca, Uni Posca. That's my newer favorite opaque white. So I'm going through and I'm going to look for each of my little highlight areas on the splatter. And I'll add some little dots and little stripes or kind of whatever works on each of these. The bigger ones can get kind of a little string of action. The narrower ones or smaller ones can get lesser amounts. But that'll also take away from the, there we go, kind of fun. You could even add like a little name or detail. You could add detail on the metal crimping. I'm going to stay away from that for this image because of the fact that I don't want to lose track of the sentiment. You are a work of art. So I think for right now, I'm going to stop there. I might add a little sparkle later. So most of you are aware of this right now because I've been talking about it. When this video airs, I'm in the middle of some travel and moving. So I am not going to be making a card out of this particular one. If I have a chance before it airs, I will put it on my Instagram post, but hopefully you got something out of this. If nothing else, some fun coloring and another easy way to layer a couple different stamps, doing that light pink ink and then coming back and adding the black sentiment on top of it. I don't have to do any masking. I can just color right over the top of it because it's compatible to Copic markers. It just works really well and pretty easy. So I hope you are all having a wonderful spring, working our way toward summer. Each and every one of you have a happy, colorful day.